what's going on, guys? Back at the barn. Have to do a little bit of work today. I got to re-brace for these gates, make sure that they're ready to get hung, but the fence is up and it's good to go. We just have to get these gates mounted, a little bit of extra work, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so back up here at the barn, there's a little bit of work that I have to do in order to complete our fence build, and that is we need to get these gates hung, but before we do, there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. For this 4-foot gate here, this gate is going to be going from this post right here over to the barn, and the issue that we have on this one, it's not too big of an issue, but there's two things. One, I have to get a bracket mounted here for the gate latch, and this is going to go on here, but right now that wall that's on this barn, there's a gap between this siding board and the 4x4 in there, so I have to cut a couple pieces of 2x4, put them on the inside of there and nail them in to secure this side. And then I'm thinking about using some of the 1x6 to trim out this corner from the top down. That way this is ready to be mounted to, and it's got a nice sturdy solid surface. And then the other issue that I have over at this 4-foot gate, if you see the gap down here, it's a little bit too big. We need to lower that down. In order to lower that down, I'm gonna have to go to that corner of the fence, take a shovel and dig down a little bit just to lower that down, and then this gate will be ready to be mounted. Other than that, it's not too bad. If you guys like these videos, please give it a like, share it, hit that subscribe button down there. And if you don't mind, hit that bell. Follow along as we release new videos. It's exciting to actually have this fence done. It's been about a year in the works. A lot of different hiccups, road bumps we've run into. Again, we still have to finish off a little bit of it here. We have a cattle panel that's going to mount up on this back part of the fence. This is just that little piece that goes from the barn to the gate. You can't really pull high tension on this little section here. It's just not, you're never really gonna get the wire nice and tight. So we opted in to get a cattle panel or a hog panel put in there. It's a thicker gauge than the actual fence wire itself, but this is gonna be what we're gonna use to cover up this fence here. And then this gate that's here, the last contractor that came here, he built the fence opening here too wide. So the posts that are in here for both that side and over here on this side, it's supposed to be 12 foot apart so the 12-foot gate can fit in it, but it's actually a little bit bigger than that. So right here is where I would like the fence, so that it's nice and even and on this post. The issue is that although the gate would look good, since they've spaced those posts out too far, we have this gap. And so that gap's too big to use the latch. So we want to also put a gate latch over on this side. And because the gap is so big, we're unable to use the latch. So we're going to have to use some spacers. We decided that we're going to add some filler boards on both sides to kind of cut the spacing down. So that's the dilemma here. And then the last dilemma is with the gate on the back side of the fence back there. It's the way the gapping is. We got to get a couple additional long anchored hinges to go through there. We didn't have those, so he's gonna pick those up and bring them here and install the gates sometime this week, and then we'll be completely finished with the fence. But overall, the fence itself, the wiring and whatnot is all up and pulled and all the braces are built. It's just the 3 gates that have to be mounted, and then the fence will be completely finished. All right, should be pretty simple because I already have a couple 2x4s up here. Ironically, it works out. All I need to do is cut these 2x4s to fit in this gap. So we got to cut about probably 6 to 8 inches off of this, and we'll be able to fit it in this gap back here to fill in these gaps. I'm going to do one on the bottom and one right here. It should just be those two that we need. And then again, I have these 1x6s. They're treated. May end up using those to trim out that corner. I'm not sure. I was using those for the fascia up on the front of the barn, which I still have to finish down this side eventually. But it may just make the barn aesthetically pleasing when looking at it. It might close that in. The gate just fell back there. But it may just bring this all together and look a little neater than the way it is now, because there's a gap right here. Not a big deal, but when it comes to mounting that hardware, it might be better to have a nice flush, flat surface. All right, so I have a scrap piece of 2x4. I'm just gonna go inside and see about the height. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect as far as the measurements go. And I forgot to bring a tape measure with me. So I'm just gonna kind of hold this up in there, get a general idea where it's at, just scratch it with a nail or something so I have an idea where to cut it. And then I'll come out with the circular saw. We'll get this cut and then get it in there and nail it back in. So first things first, let me go get this measured out. It's gonna take a nail, get a general idea where to cut this thing at. And we'll say somewhere right there. Now I'm just gonna go in, tap this in, grab the next board, do the same thing for the second part up there. And once I got that cut, we'll go ahead and get these nailed in. I got both of those boards in here. They're just kind of setting in here right now until we can get these boards mounted or nailed in. So there they are. They're just kind of stuck in there right now. I'm gonna go ahead and take the hammer and nails and get these things mounted in there. I'm using a 3.5 inch exterior grade nail. So we're gonna just put about, I don't know if you could see here, here's the top of the board and the bottom for the top one. We'll put 3 or 4 nails per board. That should be good just to hold it in place. These should be long enough to go through the siding board, the 2x4, and into the 4x4. So that's why I'm using these 3.5 inch. So let's get these things nailed in. Gotta push this one back over a little bit too. Now this gap in here is filled and this is nice and sturdy. It's hard to tell if I should do a 1x4 trim on there, because then if I do it on this corner, I'm gonna want to do it on that corner, then the upper corner's up there. Decisions. I think for right now, I'm just gonna leave it without the trim, because I'm not sure if I'll even want to use those 1x6s. Seem a little bit excessive, a little bit wide and big. And I have a piece that I could show. If I were to trim, it would look something like this. But the issue is, since there's nothing here, this is gonna wobble slightly. So my solution to that wobbling would be to do it like this, but then I'll have a seam on the front side of the barn, and I really didn't want the seam. I wanted to put this 1x6 on top, but then by doing so, you still introduce a little bit of wobbling with that 1x6. And this board's a bit wide for trim board. Should have a 3 or 4 inch board to do that. So I think I'm just gonna leave it without the trim for now. That may be a project later down the road that I'm gonna do. The only thing I need to do over here at this gate now is just get this corner dug down a little bit. That way the gate sits a little flatter. And then once that's dug down, all the prep work should be done to get these gates mounted. And then we'll have to move on to the goat stall. So I'm excited to start that project, but first things first, we'll get this thing dug out here. So I leveled it out pretty good. If you take a look, the gap on the bottom is pretty even across here. Again, we're gonna have to probably put a 2x6 or something up along the wall over there when we mount the brackets, the hinges in for here. And he may be getting those bolt through hinges for this one as well. I'm not sure, but we wanted to make sure we leveled it out, and we did. I'm just gonna clean up the ground right around in here some more. So as the gate opens up, it can swing open freely. It's looking pretty good. We'll finish that up real quick. All right, so got it dug out in front of the gate here. I'm not 100% sure where the gate will actually be mounted at. So before I dig too much, I'm gonna let the gate get mounted. We might have to make some minor adjustments so it can swivel open. But depending on where it's mounted on the post, we'll determine the swing radius and what else needs to be cleaned up. So yeah, that's done. Now we're just gonna wait for the gates to be installed and the fence will be done. So I'm just gonna close up here at the barn, get the pigs fed real quick, and then I'll go get that golf cart blocked up and ready to go. Okay, here's what's going on. Front end is completely torn apart. So what happened was on the tie rod here, we had a bolt that was in this position down here that was holding on the heim joint, this bolt right here, and it was stuck in there with some lock joint, with some Loctite. So we had to take off that whole arm and pry on it, and thanks to a friend of mine, thanks Mark, we were able to get that bolt out of there. But the replacement heim joints, which I've had for a couple months now, which are these here, they don't fit. If you look, the threads are too small. There's one goes there and one goes there, but these are not the right size heim joints. So unfortunately, I have to order new heim joints. And another issue that came out since we were working on the front end of this golf cart was the leaf spring broke. So you'll see here, this piece is supposed to go up on here, but it rusted and broke. So the front leaf springs also broke. So the tractor is holding the golf cart up. Right now, I have a piece of 4x4 that was underneath the front end just to keep it from falling down too bad. But over time, the hydraulics on this tractor will slowly sink, and I gotta keep lifting it so it don't fall down on the golf cart. But I wanna get the tractor out of here. I need the tractor. So we need to get a couple blocks and block up this golf cart and get the tractor back out of here. So I have some cinder blocks over here. I'm just gonna probably stack up a couple layers of cinder blocks just to give it something to rest on, and that should work. All right, I blocked it up. Just used 2 cinder blocks underneath there, just to kind of hold the frame up so I can lower this down. I lowered the tractor bed down enough to loosen this chain. We'll just get this off here. Throw it up in there and I'll swing it by the shed, drop it off. So now I can get the tractor backed out. We can probably go get some of them posts picked up brought back to the barn so the field's cleaned out. Got a little bit of mess out here with the old tools and stuff, so we'll get that cleaned up. Ready? There it is, all cleaned up. Now we can move on and get the tractor and go get these old posts and bring them back to the barn. Where is the drone going? I see it hovering out there. I think it's going up to get altitude over the trees, to go back to the house, to go back to the home port. It's probably gonna go right across here in a second. I don't know what it's doing. I hope someone's not playing with the remote. They might be. Someone might be out there playing with it because it's moving around. It usually doesn't move on its own unless it's going back to the home port. All right, instead of stacking them back in there, I'm just gonna start getting these things stacked in here. All this has to be cleaned up. At some point, not right now. Let me check this thing out. What are you doing just hovering up there? I have no idea why it went up there. Let's see if I wave to it if someone's looking at it. I had it hovering way out there in the field. It went up and over, and it should go straight across some trees to go back to the home, but I don't know. So I have a few more that are down on the bottom. I don't know if it's easier to get down there, just walk down there, or should I? Let me drive the tractor down there. There we go. Got a lot of pieces of post down here. Instead of making 10 different trips up the hill, figure I'd just drive right down in the path here. This is the old corner brace that failed. I think that's it. Should be all of them. Okay. Small pieces are just gonna get tossed in that pile back there. Might be able to make something for the goats out of all the scrap wood. All right, that's gonna go back to the shed. We're just gonna have to get these other posts at some point. They're not all gonna stack up like that. I just wanna get those out of the way for now. Plan on getting all the rest of these extra posts organized, probably over here somewhere. I gotta clean out one of these bays and get it all organized. That'll be another day. We're losing light. Head back to the house. Make sure the drone showed back up. All right. I hope the drone made it back here. Uh-oh. That's where the drone took off earlier. I don't hear it. And I don't see it. Disconnected. Oh man. All right, go find it. Well, that was quite the debacle there. The drone disappeared and ended up crashing in the woods, and it took us several hours and several passes before we found it. It's kind of hidden in this like low-lying area, and we didn't see it for the first few times walking by there. But I've got the drone, looking it over. There's only a tiny bit of damage, and that's right here on the foot. I just need to glue that, get that patch back up, but the rest of it, all the other major components are good, so thank goodness. I'm not sure what happened there, why it didn't come back to the home port, but at least we recovered the drone. Thanks a lot for watching the video, guys. Take care.